Hello, my name is Ray Salazar, and this is Morning Reel, a film podcast where I review films, whether they suck, whether they're great, whether they're confusing or not. I'm gonna do them. I do not take porn suggestions at this point in time. Now, we walk on a surface. Sometimes it's mostly flat, sometimes it's a little bit round. Today, I have a musician, songwriter, Grammy Award nominee, a man who devotes his life to what's outside the realm of our everyday thinking. If this guy had a third eye, I would look at it all the time. I have Stephen Carpenter of the Deftones, also known as Steftone, also known as Snacktone, also known as to some people Flat Tone. Steftone, welcome to my podcast, and thank you for wanting to be on this podcast because I didn't ask you to do it. You just like, hey man, I want to do it. I want to be the 13th episode. I'm like, all right, let's do it. Show me a movie and let's review it. Welcome, Steftone.
Thank you.
Now, you decided I should watch Band of the Hand, a 1986 film directed by Paul Michael Glaser, starring Stephen Lang, Lawrence Fishburne, Michael Carmine, Leon Robinson, Lauren Holly, John Cameron Mitchell, and Danny Quinn. There's maybe like 4 names I've never heard of, and maybe that's because I haven't seen a lot of like Street 80 films and shit. But seeing Stephen Lang with black hair, looking young, looking tan, I knew I was in for a wild ride when I saw him on screen. What made you want to talk about this film?
I really actually enjoy that film. It's a pretty obscure movie. I don't know if I don't think it came out in any theaters, none that I remember. I think it's one of those ones that went straight to VHS. But I find that movie to be entertaining. I like it's a good movie I can actually just listen to in the background also.
Speaking of like listening to it in the background, I love the soundtrack to this film.
Yeah. Love the music on that film.
Like there were some parts when I was watching it and the music would come on, but it would come on like at a very it would be a little off as to where it would come out, but somehow it just lingers there. And when there's like this climax in one scene, everything would just like synchronize itself perfectly.
Yeah, it was very transitional.
Yeah. I love that. It's very 80s, of course, 1986. I wasn't even born then.
I was 16 then.
You were 16. Did you see it when it came out?
I did. I saw it on VHS.
Fucking A.
Yeah.
In 86?
It was around then for
All
sure.
right.
Yeah.
That's tight. And you were like just thrilled seeing it at that time, right?
I had no idea. I didn't know what to expect. I just ended up. It was my family would rent VHSs all the time. And so because we had a friend of the family who had a video store, and we would always have movies that we'd cycled through.
That's
and
tight.
that one just again I think I really I gravitated to that movie. I like the dialogue again. Like I said, I like the action in the movie. It's definitely corny, at times, right? But I think musically speaking was the thing I liked the most about it. As you brought that up, I really enjoyed the sounds and the moods that it was creating. I always love movie soundtrack movies music. You know what I mean? I find it to be more, it's always got great depth, and it sets vibes, creates the tone of what's going on.
Yep. Yes, it does. From the beginning of the film, where like you hear Bob Dylan, right?
Yeah.
It's like some badass Bob Dylan song, and it's like
it starts and ends with it.
Yeah. Introduces the whole cast, has a backstory for each cast member.
Badass little kids,
Yeah.
Society gave up on them.
Juveniles in 86. fucking shooting their own dads, starting an arson fire, dealing coke. Like, you got like sick. Like, I don't know how these
The
kids
two
were.
gang members.
Yeah, dude. Like, all kinds of bad shit. I'm like, damn. Like, this film's like a quasi Miami Vice slash Scarface type of flick. Very more muddy. I wouldn't say it's a B film, but it kind of lingers on around that. Like,
I
type
felt like
of,
it was a B film, and that's something else that I really love about it. We were talking about this before on E-Zone show, and it's like, a shout out to all the bad kids who grow up and be good people. You know what I mean? There's a lot of, lots of times we see kids who are fucking up and we dismiss them right away. You know what I mean? We write them off. And that's kind of like, how this movie was, like those kids all got written off, and turns out they end up doing the great thing and the right thing in the end. You know what I mean? At least as far as the story of, of the movie is going along.
yeah, the film has a pretty good premise where these kids get locked up. They get like a second chance. This guy really devotes himself to them.
Joe,
man. Joe's a badass. I love Joe. Man, poor Joe.
Poor Joe.
Yeah, man, Joe. It's crazy. Like, I never expected that part of the movie to like really gravitate towards like building self-esteem, like showing bad kids becoming good kids, and giving part into the community, fucking kicking out junkies, kicking the asses of pimps and lowlives. I like that.
I mean, they had their struggles, but you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like they were working for a better way, and they learned how to work together. Like, cause in the very beginning, they all hated each other. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
they're all racist too.
Yeah,
Respect.
they weren't even close to each other.
Yeah.
But by the end, they were family.
Yeah. And that's pretty good, man. Like, I mean, you didn't see that in Scarface.
No.
You didn't see that in fucking Miami Vice. I mean,
And this reminds me. I mean, it was like a Miami Vice kind of derivative, kind of.
yeah.
I don't think it was specifically from them, but it
No.
seemed like it was based upon that kind of that whole era and that scene. That Southern Florida scene.
Yeah. What's your favorite part of the film? I mean, well, not your favorite part of the film, but you got a favorite scene or a favorite couple of scenes?
I mean, I mean, there's a lot of great scenes. My favorite part is when after they get all rounded up out of juvie, all the different jails they're in, and they get taken out on the airboat, and they just go way out deep into the Everglades, and he's like, off. Like, what? And they just throwing fools, and he's like, and then Carlos is like, you're gonna ruin my suit, and he just walks out in like a pimp.
Right.
It's like he's still going in the swamp.
Yeah, I dig that. For what it's worth, like as far as the screenplay is concerned, these actors really like gave it their all in this fucking film. As far as like bringing those words to life, because I mean there's some dialogue and just writing in general. It could be better, but you can tell, like looking at it, they had fun, like playing these characters, getting into the situations that they're in, especially like when Joe's actually training them, like for like to take over the hotel of whatever, and they're like, just fucking doing shit and like
they're out there getting military training.
Yeah,
and that's actually another favorite scene of mine too, is when they're leaving the swamp and the Everglades, and they finally make it to the party that's out there, in the middle of nowhere, and that song playing, we all come together again. I was like, I mean, it's just it's not anything you would expect, but I love that. It was like a good vibe. Like you felt like they earned that shit together. You know what I mean?
Yeah. He was just there, sitting there, just like, all right, these guys made it. They're all alive. They're all well.
Y'all ready for Miami?
Hell yeah. In Miami, they went. and they turned up.
Yeah, they turned it up. Yo, Mosh, boys getting paint all over the place.
I like that they brought all the other gang members and like
Yeah.
had them like do some of the shit.
They're all clowning on him.
Yeah, dig that. My favorite scene, well, my favorite shot of the film is really I guess the love making scene. Even though you didn't really see the love making, you can kind of tell it was going towards that, and the music set it off, obviously. And like that warped glass, just like the camera's just like tilting down, seeing the guy like just
And the music was
giving
great.
it to her.
Yeah, it was great music too.
Yeah, that shit was unexpected as fuck, but it just works because like gotta have something like that.
I don't remember his name, and where it had the Miami Vice cross was after the battle with in the neighborhood, when they went to go get all this stuff, and they were going to go get they were going to go blow up Nestor's his new spot, you know what I mean? And they were at the store buying all that shit. Homie at the register was homie from Miami Vice. He was
Right.
You know what I mean? So that was the real tie to Miami Vice, was just that character being in the movie.
I forgot that fool's name.
Yeah, I can't remember his name.
Yeah, but he came out in this movie called Brazil. He was like the main character. He played a fucking crazy ass character.
Mm-hmm.
But
wait a minute, man. There's no gophers in.
Yeah. Dude, like, I mean, I don't know. I can't, you can't tell for sure if they shot all that jungle stuff in the actual Everglades, but if the Everglades look like, well, at least if that part of the Everglades looked like that.
That boat ride was definitely.
That's a wild place to be at.
Hell yeah.
Fucking Florida's a wild place. I didn't think it was that,
It's huge.
Vast, you know?
Yeah, it's huge. There's
being
a lot.
that it's America's penis,
Yeah.
and all, in a sense. Yeah, that's pretty wild. Yeah, man, like, even the Nestor drug lord, he's a brujero or whatnot. Just like slanging dick, man, like making that chick like work for him, quote unquote. But
Yeah,
he's working that pussycat.
He was all the cliches.
Yeah, sitting with a robe, barefoot.
Yeah,
played a coat.
Ain't doing shit, just pimping.
Yeah, just pimping.
But he's not a pimp. That's the best part. He's not a pimp.
He's not a pimp.
He's not actually pimping literally, but that's all he does is just live like a pimp.
Yeah. You know what's ironic though? Because like, since you recommended the film, there was one part where Nestor was like looking at those various little TV screens, and there was like a rocket ship going up.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, oh shit, like subliminal
Florida.
almost.
It's Florida. Yeah,
that is true. It is
and
Florida.
That's how that whole subject always is too. It's just imagery, always in your head, so you think it's real and always believe in it all the time.
Right?
It's everywhere. Cheerios are flying into space. I think
that'll be the day.
Wasn't Nestor's like his main homeboy? Wasn't he in Scarface also? I feel like he was in Scarface. I don't remember. He reminded me.
Man, he looks like he was. If not, he was probably in the Warriors or some other fucking flick.
He definitely may have been, a homie from Miami Vice too. Like just from and it could have been any one of those episodes.
Could be. TriStar Pictures did the distribution to that film.
And that was the times, I mean, that was actually that was the back end times, of Miami Vice when that movie came out. Miami Vice had already popped like a few years earlier. So, and the best seasons of Miami Vice was the first season, because it was still becoming hella popular. And there was like all the TV stars and movie stars kept coming through and being bad guys on Miami Vice, So by the time, Miami Vice played itself out, which happened actually pretty fast, I think they only did like 2 seasons or maybe 3 seasons before it all went, came apart. And that's when Band of the Hand came out.
Right on.
All that.
I was actually watching most of this film with my chick, and she enjoyed it as well. She was
it's an unexpected good movie, you know what I mean?
She felt unexpected on some parts of the film. Some parts of the film were fucking hilarious, dude. Just because of like some of the shit that all the fucking bunch was going through. I dig that.
Do you feel like that movie's still relevant now? Because I do. I still feel like the story of that movie is still relevant. I believe that, people could learn from that movie now. It,
Totally, totally.
it may be out of, touch as far as the looks, of everything goes in it, but I don't know. I kind of feel like Miami has always sustained that type of style. Like if you went to South Florida, you could still see this movie right now.
Even the way Lil Havana looks and shit.
Maybe not all like that, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, I know what you're
Like the
saying.
vibe of it, the like the kind of the just the essence of the how it presents itself.
Yeah, the vibe is there. The subject matter is definitely there. I mean,
Cocaine ain't never went away.
and then if
Gangs never went away.
nope,
Pimping ain't never gone away.
nope. So yeah, yeah, to agree with you.
Their wardrobes might have changed. That's for sure.
For sure, you probably won't ever see that again. But
Cell phones definitely changed. Back then, I think
oh yeah, you saw a cell phone in that fucking movie.
They were on the bricks.
Yeah,
then.
dude, definitely the fucking brick cell phone.
That was like the very early times when cell phones were showing up.
Yeah. Overall, yeah, you could say that. Like, if you saw this movie today, it's still like relatable and like most of the things.
The music would definitely be. Like I thought. Like
oh
I said,
yeah,
like the soundtrack's still fucking great right now.
who doesn't love the '80s music?
Mm-hmm.
Fucking kicks ass. Makes you feel like you're in the '80s. Really.
That's right.
That's one. Like, I mean, I listen to all kinds of music and shit, but like, it's something about the '80s where like you can't compare that to like any other like decade as far as like what it makes you feel and like if it makes you want to knock that door down to the '80s and just like want to be in that fucking.
I feel like the '90s was the last decade where music took you to that time. I mean, music still takes you to a time, but the '90s was like the last of us of us music style. Just like the '80s had their own trip, the '90s had their own trip. '70s was the disco era.
Yeah.
'60s would have been like what, like rock, kind of a era. The '50s was all the all with the what we call the oldies. I hate that they called the '80s the oldies now. It's like no. The oldies were the oldies. The '80s are the '80s. That's not oldies. I recognize that time-wise they are, but that's not what we call oldies. Stop playing music from the '80s on K Earth and calling them straight up oldies.
I love K-Earth.
I love K Earth until they play some shit from the '80s. Like what the hell? That ain't Journey ain't an oldie.
And well, how old is Journey though? Like, how old is the '80s really? Like 30 years, 40 years?
40 for sure.
40 for sure.
Going 40 plus now.
I mean, 40 is old.
Journey's was rock from the '70s.
That is true.
Journey was rock from the '70s.
That is true.
Early '80s. Like going into the '80s.
Yeah.
REO, all that shit.
There was another song that was like very apparent in that film. I just don't remember the name of it, but I feel like I've just heard it. I've heard it before. I don't know where. I don't know. I've had to look it up, but yeah, man, fucking the music in that film definitely fits the film. Period.
Yeah, the Bob Dylan bookends is great.
Yeah,
and
I've never heard '80s Bob Dylan ever, dude.
I want to say they used it even in the middle too. Like that song got traction in that movie. Like it got used all over it.
Yeah. Shout out to Bob Dylan, man.
Mm-hmm.
So, Steftone, I want to thank you for being in my podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Thanks for letting me invite myself to episode 13.
Yeah, man. And I encourage others to invite themselves too if they want to be in it. Actually, Bobo invited himself.
All right.
So, hey, man, when am I going to be in your fucking podcast? I'm like, oh, shit. All right. Well, let's do Whiplash. It's like, all right, fool. We'll do it. All right, cool. We'll do Whiplash. So we will be doing Whiplash soon.
I'll come back for another episode sometime, and let's do Capricorn 1.
I've never seen that film.
That's another movie from the past, 1978.
Okay. Well, I'm going to do a little bit of research just so I can, like, not spoil the whole fucking thing.
And yeah, I won't say nothing about it right now, but I will say this about it. I don't watch it every day, but I listen to that movie every day.
Oh shit!
It's like putting on a record. I put that movie on like whenever I'm just gonna lay down for a little bit, I just want to have something on. If it's not like if I don't have something else that's, another podcast that's on at that time, definitely at night. Like I go to bed, I put on Capricorn One when I go to bed. I just love listening to it. It
Right.
knocks me right out. You
Fucking
know,
A.
maybe might even set the tone for some crazy ass dream.
That's something to try because I don't really do that. If I put a movie on, I'm gonna fucking watch it. It's hard for. It's not that it's hard for me. I'm just not used to like just having a movie in the background and just like me focusing on the audio of the film while I'm doing my shit. But I guess for like films like Band of the Hand and like you said, Capricorn One, maybe I should try that with like fucking Batman Returns or some shit or TMNT. I don't know, man. Steftone, you want to give any shout outs?
Oh, shout out to everybody who's listening right now. Shout out to you again for allowing me on your podcast. Let me, come on up on it
Thank
and
you.
bring out this old classic, flick that almost probably no one's ever heard about.
It's a cult classic. If it ain't, we're making it a cult classic.
For sure.
You can follow Steftone at Steph double DOG.
Yeah, it's like Snoop Dogg.
Yeah.
But only I spell mine all the way out. DODOUBLEG. Yeah, so STEFDODOUBLEG.
You wouldn't expect Steftone to have a fucking IG name like that. But follow that fool. Follow Deftones.
And I ain't got no check mark.
No check mark. Just a normal ass man. They're gonna be out on tour. If they're in your city, check them out. You can follow me at Morning Shot Films. Rate and review this podcast and this episode. Share it with your friends. I'm Ray Salazar. On to the next one. Thank you.
Thank you.